Please welcome your next Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman.
This is how Melissa Hortman spent her day standing for the issues she believed in.
Gun violence prevention. Universal health care. Fully funding our schools.
She spent her nights in Brooklyn Park with these three, her beloved children and her husband, Mark. Before becoming a mother, she was a student, first at Blaine High School, then Boston University, where she worked for then Senator Al Gore, starting her own path to politics in 2004 at the Minnesota State House. She spoke from that very house just days ago, a proud Democrat who respected Republicans.
And I think in the end, fighting for that equal shared power made this a better session.
A session that got emotional over health care for undocumented immigrants.
What I worry about is the people who will lose their health insurance. I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision. And we tried any other way we could to come to a budget agreement with Republicans, and they wouldn't have it. So, I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
And now, the ones emotional are the ones who knew her. WCCO reporter Caroline Cummings was behind the microphone just days ago.
This really hits home that these are people just like you and me, and that's where you can leave your politics at the door and mourn and pray for the families and the loved ones that they have lost, because I know the Hortman family has two children who are mourning their parents.
On June 14, 2025, Minnesota State Rep Melissa Hortman was assassinated in a shooting at her home in Brooklyn Park. Her husband was also killed. In an earlier attack, State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were also shot. Both were seriously injured, but survived. Their daughter Hope was also present, but was not shot during the incident. Her mother, Yvette, heroically shielded her, taking the bullets meant for her. The biggest manhunt in Minnesota history took place as the killer fled the scene. He was later identified as 57-year-old Vance Luther Bolter.
An all-out manhunt now for 57-year-old Vance Luther Bolter, the suspect in both shootings. Police in Minnesota releasing his photo a short time ago. Take a look at these photos. This is him. He's suspected of shooting two Democratic state lawmakers and their spouses, killing one of them. This picture of him wearing a tan cowboy hat was taken today in Minneapolis. At about 2 this morning, police say Bolter showed up to Democratic Senator John Hoffman's home in Chaplin, where he shot him and his wife Yvette multiple times. The two were rushed to the hospital and underwent surgery. Police say after finding out who the victims were, officers were sent to check on Democratic former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, who live about 9 miles away in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. When authorities arrived at the Hortman's home, they saw a police vehicle and a man dressed as an officer at the door leaving the home. When officers confronted him, the individual immediately fired at police. The officers fired back. The suspect, however, got away. Both Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband were found dead inside their home. Authorities say they found a manifesto in the suspect's car. It was a hit list with names of many lawmakers and other officials. Now, Governor Tim Walz calling the shooting a politically motivated assassination.
Bolter was later charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Well, according to the liberal mainstream media, Bolter was religious, anti-abortion, and anti-LGBT. But after a lot has come to light about fraud taking place in Minnesota that involves members of the Somali community, people began to point out what happened just a few days before Melissa Hortman lost her life. She was the only Democrat to vote for stripping away healthcare benefits for illegal immigrants. The lone Democrat stood there on the steps of the House after the vote. She stood before the press explaining her decision. People couldn't help but notice her demeanor.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and We worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
DFL Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman emotional following the House's adjournment from a special session Monday. Hortman was the lone DFL lawmaker to cast a vote to cut Minnesota Care access for undocumented immigrants. It's a move she made with a heavy heart.
I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
The bill was deeply unpopular with members of the DFL caucus. Members have repeatedly expressed frustration that the bill was part of a compromise, one that would ensure the necessary GOP votes to pass the rest of the state budget.
We are tremendously disappointed and gut-wrenched at this decision, at this compromise that compromises our communities that are most vulnerable.
Hortman knows she let down her own caucus members with the vote.
They're right to be mad at me. I think some of them are pretty angry. I think that their job was to make folks who voted for that bill feel like crap, and I think that they succeeded.
According to CNN, Bolter was religious, Bolter was anti-abortion, all of these things. But what is objectively fact is that Bolter was appointed by Tim Walz. He was appointed to serve on a board. Melissa Hortman was shot and killed by a Tim Walz appointee. At least this is how it's being explained and this is how it's being described. And people are running with certain theories implicating Tim Walz in the murder, suggesting that Bolter did what he did on the direction of Tim Walz. Well, it's one thing for people on X to spread conspiracy theories, to not accept the mainstream narrative, but it's another thing when the President of the United States spreads those theories as well. Trump, on his Truth Social, shared a TikTok video. So the TikTok video on Truth Social broke it all down, and it has resulted in a firestorm. Many have come out to condemn President Trump for posting the video. Tim Walz has responded. Nick Shirley responded to Tim Walz. But most importantly, the family of Melissa Hortman have spoken out and have urged President Trump to take the video down. As of the recording of this video, the video still remains up there.
Do you guys remember Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota state rep that had her life taken from her by Tim Walz's aide after voting to take away health care from illegal immigrants?
She was unalived in her home by Vance Bolter, who was later caught after a manhunt. He then sent a letter to the FBI and Kash Patel saying that it was Tim Walz who forced him to do it. Both Vance Bolter and his wife worked for Tim Walz for years in different states. Was Melissa Hortman unalived because she voted against a multi-billion-dollar money laundering fraud? The fraud that she voted against that heavily implicated illegal aliens, specifically Somalians, who have been racketing this kind of child care, health care rackets and cooperating with our corrupt government. And today it's breaking news that the money laundering scam in Minnesota of billions of dollars for healthcare offices, child daycares, Medicaid, and various forms of care agencies. These money laundering frauds have been exposed, and it all comes back to Tim Walz.
I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
Very shortly after this, she was unalived in her home by Vance Bolter. Vance Bolter and his wife worked for Tim Walz for years in different states.
And Tim Walz said, dangerous, depraved behaviour from the sitting President of the United States. In covering for an actual serial killer, he is going to get more innocent people killed. America is better than this. Nick Shirley responded. Why was she killed after speaking out against illegal immigrants? Was she a threat to you and your fraudster scheme? R.I.P. Melissa Hortman. It's so incredibly obvious. They're terrified of Nick Shirley and what he's uncovering. Tim Walz. My opponents have been celebrating this far-right YouTuber as a groundbreaking journalist. Here he reveals who he really is. A delusional conspiracy theorist. So Melissa Hortman's children have spoken out.
Actions pouring in following a video that President Trump reposted on Truth Social as well tonight. It pushes a conspiracy theory tying Governor Walz to the political assassination of state lawmaker Melissa Hortman. Both children of the Hortmans now releasing statements. Their son Colin Hortman saying in part, quote, "My father and mother, Mark and Melissa Hortman, and their dog Gilbert were killed by a man who believed conspiracy theories and fake news. Words matter and sharing fake news is dangerous." Their daughter Sophie saying the video shared by the president on Truth Social is a painful and false twisting of my mother's final vote, and they are asking the president to take that post down. Local lawmakers and the governor also reacting to the president's post tonight. We asked Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy about this when she was a guest on our morning news this morning.
This president has a real penchant and takes a lot of glee in hurting people. And that post last night inflicted a lot of pain on people, including, I'm sure, though I haven't spoken with him, on Governor Walz and his family. He and Melissa Hortman were close. Melissa Hortman was a dear friend of mine. John Hoffman is my colleague. And I don't understand why he would decide to do that. But it is another example, from my perspective, of the continuation of the Republicans' effort to drive division and sow seeds for violence. What we experienced in June was political violence.
Governor Tim Walz posting on social media, quote, "dangerous, depraved behavior from the sitting president of the United States in covering for an actual serial killer. He is going to get more innocent people killed." And lawmakers from both sides of the aisle condemning the president's post. State Republican Senator Julia Coleman saying in part, quote, "do not speculate, guess, or spread stories that are plainly false and deeply harmful. It's time to restore dignity to our political discourse."
It has been reported that Tim Walz appoints hundreds of people to the board. It doesn't mean that he knows them personally. Bolter was one of hundreds of people appointed to a board every year by Governor Tim Walz. And Bolter was initially appointed by Mark Dayton in 2016. Hortman did vote to end healthcare benefits for illegal migrants, but it's believed that she did that so that they could come to a deal. Her colleagues will say she did what she had to do to ensure that the budget deal went through and was finally concluded. These bills come with all sorts of clauses. Walz also reluctantly ended up supporting the healthcare compromise, and he ended up signing the bill after it was approved. But one detail that people will not ignore is the fact that Bolter sent a letter to the FBI implicating Governor Tim Walz, saying that Governor Tim Walz did in fact direct him to take out certain politicians. Bolter alleged that he was directed by Walz to kill Senators Klobuchar and Smith. The letter was dismissed as being fantasy and delusional by authorities, and prosecutors say that Bolter acted alone. He now faces the death penalty. As for Trump posting the TikTok video, many would argue that it's beneath him as the President of the United States to be posting TikTok videos. He posts all sorts of things on Truth Social. To be honest, if you take a look and go down his timeline, he posted the video with no caption, leaving it for people to make up their own minds, I guess. But I would like to see less posting and more action, especially if you believe the governor of Minnesota is implicated in a murder. As the President of the United States, no one is in a better position to do something about it or to investigate it further. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.